Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Silent Core and welcome back to my Red Dead series where I bring you guys all the latest news and information and discussions around Red Dead Redemption 2. So today I wanted to go through the top 10 characters that I'd like to see return in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now I have made several videos already going through the evidence supporting the theory that this next game will be a prequel taking place some years before Red Dead Redemption 1. And it's also worth noting that some of the character silhouettes in the teaser image Rockstar put up also very much resemble some of the characters from the previous Red Dead Redemption game. Now although I strongly believe we will be getting a new main protagonist, a new main character to play in Red Dead Redemption 2, I do think it's quite likely we will see a few familiar faces making an appearance. So let's get into the first character, and it is the Strange Man.
Tell me your name or I won't be responsible for my actions.
Oh, but you will. You will be responsible.
This is a fine spot.
Now this is quite a small character you meet along your playthrough in Red Dead Redemption. He's in a side mission called I Know You, and it's a series of 3 different locations that you meet this strange man in, and each time you meet him, he kind of asks you to perform an errand for him. Now in the third and final encounter with him, he actually predicts where your grave is going to be by saying this is a fine spot. And what's weird as well is there's actually a picture of the strange man hanging in your bedroom in Beecher's Hope, and just over Jack's bed too, I believe, and above the piano in the living room. So I'm not really sure what the explanation of that is, and it gets even weirder. So according to the wiki, Rockstar in an interview in an edition of GamePro magazine actually was asked about who the man in the top hat was. And they went on to ask Rockstar if he represented God or Satan, and Rockstar said they weren't going to comment on that. So I don't know about you guys, but I just find this character super mysterious. I'd love to get to the bottom of who he is and what he's all about, and I'm pretty sure if we do bump into him, it'll be a pretty small reference in Red Dead Redemption 2. At the number 9 spot is Nigel West Dickens.
For you, sir, I do a bulk discount rate of $1.95 an ounce, as long as you buy 100 ounces or more.
Now this is a character that you meet through the game who's kind of a travelling salesperson and pretty much a cons man. He kind of cons people into buying stuff. He'll sell stuff like elixirs or miracle cures that he says will treat anything, and it's probably a reference to the kind of travellers during this time era in the United States that ran scams, and because they were travellers they could get away with running a scam in each town, and by the time people had found out it didn't work, they'd already have moved on to the next town. And there's kind of a few Western films out there that sort of depict this as well. I don't know about you guys, but for some reason I did find this character a little bit annoying, but some of his inventions were actually quite amusing, such as during the Undead Nightmare DLC. He was selling something known as a zombie cure, which later turned out to be zombie bait, which resulted in all of those people being chased down and eaten by zombies. At the number 8 spot is Uncle. Now I have seen a few people speculating that Uncle is actually pictured in the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer. It does kind of resemble him, but I'm not 100% sure if that is actually him. Now despite this character being called Uncle, this guy actually has no relation to John Marston or any of the Marston family for that fact, but he actually seems to live at your ranch. According to his background, he's a lazy alcoholic and also a previous thief, so he looked like he was kind of escaping his former life by doing somewhat of an honest work on your farm. He seems like kind of a decent person when he's on your farm. He seems like quite a reliable and trustworthy person, so it may be interesting if this is a prequel to see a little bit of more of his previous life. What was he like when he was a thief? What was he like when he was an alcoholic, and maybe what inspired him to make this change. Moving on to the number 7 spot is Edgar Ross, and probably by the end of the game, the most hated man in the whole game. And if you've completed the game, you'll know why.
What a pleasant surprise, Mr. Marston. An informant just told us some interesting...
So this guy is a 50-year-old leader of the government agency, and I believe towards the end of the game he makes it into the FBI before retiring. Now although this guy does like to fight crime, he is completely willing to bend the law completely in order to get what he wants, such as, at the start of the game he kidnaps your wife and your son, and he uses the army to pursue Dutch's gang, which is apparently illegal for the US military to do policing actions like that. So yeah, Edgar Ross is a bit of a rule breaker, and it would be pretty interesting to learn a bit more about this character's history. At the number 6 spot is Dutch.
Oh, it's nice to see you, John.
Hello, Dutch.
Now Dutch was actually the leader of an outlaw gang in Red Dead Redemption 1. It consisted originally of Bill Williamson, Escuela, Marston, and of course Dutch himself. However, during the setting of Red Dead Redemption 1, the gang actually consisted of many Native Americans further on in the game as well. Now apparently Dutch's whole philosophy was all about giving to the poor, about giving back, and he kind of hated all kind of technology, government and social order, and was kind of rebelling against that, and especially with the Wild West dying and becoming the New West, He was trying to keep things turning to their old ways, and that made him such a major antagonist in the game. Now there's a lot of people speculating that the people pictured in the teaser image tweeted out by Rockstar, these characters might be Dutch's gang, so it'll be interesting to see if we can actually play in Red Dead Redemption 2 within Dutch's gang, or what kind of maybe affiliation we're going to have with the gang or these characters. I've said this before in a few videos, but I have a feeling that the character in the middle, this is an unknown character and seems to be the kind of the center point of this gang, that could be possibly our main protagonist in the next game. So yeah, maybe we'll actually be involved in Dutch's gang during the time when their gang intentions were positive, when they were helping out the poor and had a good philosophy behind it. At the number 5 spot is the very beloved Bonnie McFarlane.
Miss McFarlane, I'd like you to meet my wife, Abigail.
So she actually lives on a ranch and took John in when he was injured, and she's just genuinely a very lovely person. I really enjoyed getting to know her in the game, and it's quite clear she has a bit of a soft spot towards John. Now the scene of Bonnie that always stands out in my memory is during one of the final missions, Old Friends, New Problems, where John actually visits Bonnie and brings along his wife Abigail. And at the end of this mission, when John and his wife are leaving and kind of leaving into the sunset, Bonnie kind of just stands there and stares into them and watches them leave together and looks a little bit sad. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I don't know, I really wanted to choose Bonnie. So usually in my countdowns I'll have a bonus clip, or in this case I'm going to have a bonus character, and this is Herbert Moon.
Well, I don't like Jews, or colored folk, or natives, now that you mention it.
Now he's a very ridiculous character. He was basically a shop owner in Armadillo, and he's a big time racist. He seems to just blame the Jews for everything and kind of hates on every single minority out there. So maybe this guy will crop up in Red Dead Redemption 2 and maybe answer some of the questions on actually why he hates Jews so much. At the number 4 spot is Irish. Now Irish is an immigrant from, and you guessed it, Ireland.
I was real drunk last time I was here, John. You know how it is.
And he's kind of living true to the Irish culture and seems to have a bit of an alcohol problem throughout the whole game that we know him. Nearly every time we meet Irish, he's very drunk and kind of forgets who you are. You kind of have to remind him who you are every time you meet him. But yeah, I just found him a bit of a hilarious character. I'd really like to learn more about his background. Maybe we'll meet him when he kind of first emigrates over to the US and why he kind of turned to alcohol in the first place. At the number 3 spot is Landon Ricketts.
Buy me a whiskey later, and we'll call things about even.
So you meet Landon when you first head to Mexico, and he's kind of a retired notorious gunslinger from during the old American Wild West, and has a whole bunch of stories about famous gunfights and massacres that you learn from getting to know this guy. And he seemed to have moved to a smaller town for quite a quiet life, so maybe it would be interesting to see this guy in his history, and you can just tell this guy was a big badass back in his day, so maybe we'll meet him or go on a few kind of gunfights or missions alongside him. That'd be pretty awesome. At the number 2 spot, how could I forget John Marston, basically the family man.
Mr. Marston, you're truly a friend of this land.
So everyone keeps informing me.
So this was our main protagonist in Red Dead Redemption 1, and he's a pretty likeable guy. We really get to know this guy throughout the whole story, and I really hope that we do get a new main protagonist in Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm pretty sure we will, but I think it would be cool to have some sort of reference or maybe meet John Marston sometime along Red Dead Redemption 2. So maybe we'll meet John back in his outlaw days, back when he rolled with Dutch's gang, when he was kidnapping, when he was committing crimes, and it almost seems a bit of out of character for John. When we play John in the game, he's a very balanced, a very fair and good person, and he doesn't seem to want to kill unless he absolutely needs it. So it'll be interesting to see his perspective during that time. At the number 1 spot is Seth BRIARS. Now this is an absolutely crazy character in Red Dead Redemption.
You distract him so I can sneak in for a quick parlay with that son of a bitch.
I'm sure I can think of something.
When we meet him, he's kind of obsessed with finding treasure, with grave robbing, and in the Undead DLC we kind of meet him hanging out with some zombies, which is a pretty funny cutscene, but he's quite clearly a bit of a lunatic. Now the interesting thing about Seth is he hasn't always been like this. He hasn't always been a crazy person. He used to have a wife, a family, a business. Something drove him to this madness, so maybe we'll meet him before he goes crazy or find a little more on his kind of backstory on what actually happened. So that brings me to the end of the list. Let me know in the comments if I missed anyone or if there's any other characters you guys would really like to see in Red Dead Redemption 2. If you guys watched this all the way to the end, I'd really appreciate if you could take a few seconds to leave the video a like. Really helps out the channel, and also subscribe if you're new around here for more videos like this one. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Sick, I'm in Los Santos. Dodging missiles, dodging bullets. Coming at me now, tell me to pull it. I'm a hardcore in GTA.